Hi, Ann Kornick from Paintnporcelain. I teach beginners how to get started in China painting, and I also try to recruit people to paint along with us. Today we're going to work on the final fire of our roses, our baby roses. Colors for today. We're going to use the greens, the light green, the medium green. And then I also have a pink, a light pink and a dark pink. I'm using Pompadour for my dark pink, and you can use any kind like Pompadour or Persian, as long as you use it lightly. It will work with the pink rose just fine. I have a yellow, any yellow. I have daffodil. I know you don't have daffodil, but if you have a mixing yellow, Albert yellow, any of those will work. Baby blue or any light blue, just for the background. I would not make it too light though. You want a little bit of contrast to the roses. I also have an autumn brown. This is a medium brown, so whatever medium brown. I'm not telling you what colors to use specifically because I want you just to use what you have on your palette. There's no sense buying more colors. We could all do that and we'd all be broke. I'm back on the tile, and the reason I'm back on the tile is because it's just easier to show you. So this is from last week. I fired it just so you had it. This was the outline we talked about last week, just to give you an outline for a basic rose. And then this is the roses that we did. I'm going to use... for the roses, I'm using a 1/4 inch. And then when we get into the leaves, I'm going to use a much smaller brush, and I have no idea what this is, but I would suspect if this is a 1/4, this is an 1/8. Okay, so it's a very small rose. And I'm using oil. I'm going to start, first of all, with the background, because what I want to do is develop something that these roses I can, cut away with. So I already had started with a little bit of baby blue, and I didn't mean to do that, but since I had, and it was on here, I just left it. And I'm going to put a little in through, oops, that's a little darker. What you want to do is go lightly with this and then feather it out just to give it a little background. Now, if I'm doing it on my picture frame, I'm do the same thing. In fact, well, maybe it's, well, I'm going to do it on here, but I would do exactly the same thing. It's the same design as on the picture frame. And then I'm going to pull this blue over in here, pull it right up against the top, and I'm going to feather it out. You want to make it as smooth as possible, okay? So this is a silk. It's just a piece of silk that I buy. I buy scarves that say they're 100% silk at the resale shops, and then I wash them, and I take, and then you can take and put the lamb's wool in here. I'll show you. The lamb's wool is really cool. I used to use cotton balls, but I find that the lamb's wool is much more resistant. I would suspect you could probably get something like this at a knitting shop or craft store. And then you put it where you want it in the scarf. You put it in the middle. You pull it around so that you have a nice pouncing area that doesn't have any wrinkles, if you can help it. And you twist it, okay? And then you just take a rubber band and seal it off like that. And then you can pounce, and it will remove a lot of the different, lines and such that you get there. So if you're new to China painting and it's really hard for you to try to get everything smooth in the background, this is another way of learning how to do it without having to really spend a lot of time trying to smooth things, although you need to learn how to smooth things, you really do. Now, normally I would have added a yellow over in this area a little bit. I'll just put a little yellow up in there. And then down at the bottom, I'm also going to put a little bit of blue. You don't go out very far from the piece, because like on my picture frame, I want this to be white. So I'm going to just keep the background color around the piece that I'm working on. This is not here, by the way. Okay, that was a rose leaf, I think, that I demonstrated. Okay, now I'm just going to put the blue all the way around. If you want to, you can add a little brown. Let me get a little brown here. You can add a little brown in through here if you want, just to give it a little bit of Sometimes that's nice for a little shadow down on the bottom. Maybe a little shadow over on this side. Oop. Brown, especially a medium brown, hair brown, auburn. Auburn is a portrait color, so I use the auburn a lot because I like the portrait colors. They seem to be softer than some of the others. And then see how I have all those little lines in there? Here, let me pull it up a little. I know though that that doesn't really help, but you see it's a little jaggy. Okay, I'm going to take this and I'm just going to pounce, and you'll see how that takes that off. This is way too dark up there. Just ignore that. Okay, now for the rose, now that I've got my colors on there, I'm going to get rid of all the colors, clean my brush really well. And in the center of the rose, I'm going to side load my brush with a little pomp. This is a side load where you just go in and you just kind of gently pull a little of the color down. And I'm also going to put just a tad of brown on it. You can test it on your tile if you want first. And then you're going to go in and just do a little bit of darkening, just to give it a little highlight there. Same thing on this side. You see how that brown really helps it get a little bit darker? Now, brown by itself will also help. So I have a leaf that goes, let me get a pencil here so you can see where the leaf goes. Okay, I have a leaf that goes here and a leaf that goes here from this rose. Okay, and so I want the rose under it to have shading. So I take the side of my brush, put a little brown on it, and just pull that color in along the side. Just a flat pull. That will immediately put this rose behind that rose. You see how that works? Kind of dropped it right back there. I will also do the same a little over in here because this is the side that has the shade on it. And then up here, I'm going to just take a little red because I don't feel that the center of the center is really out enough. And I'm just going to pull it up. Now you can make these adjustments on a second fire. So see how I pulled that up a little more? I can put a few more cuts in there and it'll be really nice. Alrighty, I'm going to use a little pompadour and just go around here and accent where one petal is under another and where they hit the base there. And you really have to play with this. You're going to gently add these colors in down there with just the very edge of your brush. Just the very edge. See what I'm doing? See how that's working? It's just the very edge of the brush. And you decide which of these is on top. So if this is on top of this, you want to put a little there, maybe even a little on this side just to put it down below. And then you can take the cleaner side of your brush and just sort of do that. There you go. Okay. And I'm going to add a little up in here. Oops, a little heavy. There we go. And I'm going to add a little down here, a little there. Okay. Now, if it gets a little heavy, just tap, tap, tap until you get it exactly the way you want it, alrighty? Then on this rose, I'm going to do the same thing. This petal here comes like this. So I'm going to come like that. And the reason I'm doing it with pencil, you'll notice, is that the pencil will wipe out as I add the color. So that way I'm not disturbing what I'm seeing. I'm seeing the real thing. On the second fire particularly, I think you need to use a pencil just to make sure you're seeing the real thing. Okay. And then I'm going to put a little here. Oops. Always wipe it off on your towel if it's too heavy and just keep playing with it. These little roses are difficult only because they require that you spend a lot of time getting the color in the right spot. And if you use a larger brush like I do, it makes it a little tougher to get the color in the right spot. Then you can use either a brush, because you already have some of these things there. You could use either a brush or a eraser like a Paintnporcelain to wipe out the edges. If you use the brush, you use the corner of the brush like this and just wipe out the edges. If you use the Paintnporcelain, I'll get a gray one, I like the gray one better. You're going to go around the edges. And up in here. This one's a little too flimsy. I need one that's going to stand up to me, I guess. Here we go. There we go. And just pull the color out. Then up here, I'm going to pull the color out a little bit too. And a little down in here. A little in here. There we go. This one I need a little more. See, the other Paintnporcelain was fighting me. It wasn't as friendly as this one is. In here. Okay. And a little here. Maybe a little here. And a little here. How do I know where? I always do the outline of this. Not completely, but just a little bit. So I outline each of my leaves. I always decide which one is on top, and that's the one. Remember, we've got that X down here. That's the one that I work with the most. I always try to make most of my, and I didn't do it here, but I try to make most of my cuts on a slight angle, like this, or this, or this, so that they go towards that base. This one should have come up like this and then come around. Then I take my brush and I soften. I don't know if you can tell. You can't really tell. Let me do one here that'll be obvious. There. Okay, this is kind of obvious. There's a lot of buildup around it. Just take your brush corner lightly and just go over that so that you don't have these harsh lines. You want to make sure that you get rid of the harsh lines here too. See, I want to get rid of that. There we go. There's one, here's one. And if I really want a little bit of highlight, you had the highlight underneath from before, so all I did was pull it out by going on top like that. Now remember, no two roses are alike. They should not be perfect, but if you use the same formula for both, you probably will notice very much a similarity. So it's the cuts. Like here, I need to do that a little more. It's the cuts. This cut comes across, this cut comes in a V. And that will also make them appear different. Okay, I'm switching to my really teeny tiny brush now. I'm going to do the leaves. The leaves I'm also going to use a little bit of brown on. I'm going to take my warm brown green, side load with a little auburn, and I'm just going to put a little bit of that color in there. Can you see what that does? I think you can tell. Let me turn it this way. Don't want to do too much on the edge of that, but here, now let me show you on this bigger leaf that's down here, okay? I'm going to pull this up a little bit. I'm going to put the brown, just the brown on. You don't always need to do both colors. See what it does? Gives it a nice base. Really, really holds it to the base of the design. There we go. Remember, less is more. You don't need to do a lot of side veins and all that on this kind of stuff. You probably don't even need to do veins at all if you just pull the paint to the middle like I did there. Here. and then pull it back over, you'll get an instant vein, and that's really the only one that you need. Same thing here. We're going to do a little of this. Now, you don't have to do the brown. You can do just a dark green. I'll show you what that looks like. Here, let's just do this one in a dark green, okay? And that's fine. I also like to use a little bit of the pomp. I don't know if you've ever tried that, but that makes for a very interesting one. You do have to put the green on and then side load with the pomp. Side load green, side load pomp. And you mix it. And then pull it up this way. It's a little harsh. There we go, it's a little better. Let me do it on these over here so you can see them. You're going to do it this way. This way. I do have a little red on there. And then even just put a little red on the tip if you want. If you look at my roses outside right now, that's kind of the way they all look. Oop, way too dark. This is just green. And this is just green. I'm going to do a red tip on this one. See how it works? Now, the only other thing that's still bugging me is right here. That's better. There. Okay. So the final thing we're going to do on these roses, which is not much at all, is to take our liner, dip it in a little green. I'm going to use the warm brown green. And you're going to just take your liner, whatever liner you prefer. Remember, this isn't really here, okay? And you're just going to put those little, oops, gosh, it's that thick. Hang on. Don't want it that thick. That happens, you know what to do, right? You take your little stump or whatever you have and just gently tease it back. Here. Okay. There we go. And then here, oops, on this side I'm going to do it this way so you can see it. This was a bud up here. So I'm just going to take a little of the darker color, put in there. Just poke it down a little bit. Ah, probably too much. Shouldn't have done that. Sometimes your finger is your best friend. And then I'm going to put one side there. I'm going to put one side here. So you have those two little guys that come up there. Then there's that little dot down there that holds the bottom together. And then you just put it in. If you want a few leaves, you can fake a leaf or two there. It's up to you. I probably wouldn't have put the rosebud in, except that I think it helps for you to see it. You can also fake your leaves. So if you wanted to do some fake leaves at the bottom, you could take a little brown, little red, or a little brown, a little green, and you can just do this. Put them like that. Do a couple over here like this. Do this, do this. Maybe do a little more down here like this. Just keep the paint on your brush. Don't, and if it's running out, big deal. The idea is these are kind of shadowy leaves down here. Maybe they aren't quite as nice as the other ones. And if you just keep the paint on your brush and work with the brush all the way down, you can get a shadow leaf effect. I'm just using a green full load, brown side load to do this. And then I'll put them in a couple places I wouldn't normally put them in, but you'll at least get the idea. Here, and then maybe I want another one here. And you can put it right over the background, shouldn't be a problem. Let the background shine through. Did you see on this one, it's really a ghost leaf. Look at this one up here. It's really kind of ghosty. Can you see how the blue shines right through it? That's the kind of effect you want for a shadow leaf. You want it so that it, a little too heavy with the brown there. You want it so that it picks up some of the background color, gives you a little bit of, that will also help you. See, there's a nice little shadow leaf. If it's too dark, tap it with your finger. That'll also help get the color off. So I'm just showing you a number of different things you can try on your roses to get some different effects. Now, I think my biggest problem right here is this guy. This petal is too big. When that happens, I can just take a little of the green, a little of the brown. See? It pulls it back into perspective a little more. And then I can do this and this. And I can even take it and go like this. And just, you can shape your roses if you need to. When you do these shadow leaves, you will have to do some kind of a shadow vein, just a little something. You can do it that way. You can also just take your Pico-Pay and do it this way, you know, and then just tap it to get the rough edge off. That's what I ended up with. I know I showed you shadow leaves, and I also showed you the regular leaves, and I showed you a bud. I was trying to give you everything in this. It might be a little too much. Meantime, pick up those brushes and keep painting. Bye-bye. I hope you enjoyed the program, and I hope you'll take a minute to subscribe so that other people can learn more about China painting and we can get the word out to more people. You also can look at the links below. My Paintnporcelain.com website has a lot of freebies and printables for new and experienced painters, as well as studies, supplies, and even some of my hand-painted china. So thank you again, and I'll see you next time.